Away you go, David.
Okay, viral marketing. What I've done is I've tried to examine current thinking about viral marketing. As it's a relatively new term, there's not a lot about it, so you can kind of categorise it quite nicely. But there's also some older pieces of literature that still apply to it, because obviously viral marketing is part of society, so there's a lot of society-based theories. Jefferson and Draper were the first to use the term viral marketing. It was then elaborated by Ferguson later on. They used the term when talking about the new free email system Hotmail, referring to how users passed on the advertisement within that email with each email sent. The idea is that the term viral is acting as a metaphor for how the marketing technique is designed to spread among audiences of its own accord. Because Hotmail was the first ever free email service as well, this new viral advertisement had a lot of effect because this message was spreading. Obviously, people were going to take up the opportunity. Oh, yeah, wrong slide. Following this, Ferguson labelled the viral spreading as a digital evolution of word of mouth. Word of mouth is the passing of information between two or more participants via speech. And this is how a lot of marketing worked before media kind of got involved into advertising in the first place. It was all about just getting people to talk. Following what Ferguson said, that then relates to the phrase word of mouth, which kind of helped refine what viral marketing meant. Because obviously, first it was just a neologistic term used just as a metaphor, and it started to get a bit more of a clearer definition. Viral marketing spreads by viewers passing the message on through the internet and speech, which is what Ferguson highlights as the main difference. This is relative to what Webster says about the information society. He states that advancing technology will bring about social change, and obviously it's a technology that drives the birth of viral marketing to be this new form of word of mouth that Ferguson alludes at. A Baldrian perspective could argue that viral marketing makes the image more important than the meaning, which allows us to simulate product endorsement without audiences realising it. The viral advertisement is a product within itself, so taking the Cadbury advert, you'll think about the music and the image of the gorilla being funny, and you want to pass that on. But it's also got the product endorsing message, which is obviously the fact that it's a Cadbury advert and it has the pack shot at the end. Once you're passing on the advert as a form of entertainment, something that you've liked, you're also passing on the message, although you may not be thinking about it. Eckler and Bowles then went on to carry out research into the effects of viral marketing and what it has on the audience, their intentions to forward the advert. They found that the viewer was more likely to have positive intentions of forwarding in response to positive tones, which contradicted obviously some successful adverts, things like Go Compare, that may annoy you. In the long run, it may actually lead to the audience kind of turning against it, which is maybe why you can see things like the Go Compare advert now turning positive after establishing that kind of negative tone. Oddcast pointed out that it's difficult to measure viral marketing's effectiveness when empirical data such as YouTube views are not reliable to measure viral marketing with. Oddcast itself is an advertising company that specialises in making products viral. They made the Doggy Dentures advert, if you think about that one. They pointed out relying on page hits and YouTube views alone will not work. And so other factors concerning how viral marketing spreads need to be examined. Whilst they themselves tried to kind of establish a guide on how to make a successful viral advert, this is kind of what they found, was the fact that it's very hard to pin down what is a successful viral advert, as any advert has the potential to go viral. Lazarsfeld's two-step flow model of audience communication can be used as a basic structure when examining how viral marketing works, which can then help elaborate what makes it successful. The opinion leaders would be the very first people to be exposed to the advert, and they then pass it on to the opinion followers. The difference is that when talking about viral marketing, the opinion follower also has the potential to become an opinion leader, thus spiking out into a vast potential audience. The most current model for measuring viral marketing's effectiveness uses a similar structure to this two-step flow model theory. Obviously it's turned on its side and it's a lot more complicated, but it shows how each recipient can continue to pass on the message. It would all start with the seeds, which are the advert itself, and then obviously reaching, if you apply it to a two-step flow model, the opinion leaders, and so on. It's not the only diagram from their model, but it's important to the discussion as it illustrates how it's much more detailed than simply counting YouTube views, which is what's been done in the past. Not only can their model measure the spreading of a viral message, but it can also predict the range that a viral message is going to spread. The weakness of the model is that it's not effective until 7 days into a campaign. This means that whilst it made a significant step towards measuring how a viral message spreads between consumers, it still can't pin down exactly what factors are most likely to affect an audience's opinion to forward before they do it. One possible limitation of this is that viral marketing is constantly evolving with technology, and so it may be difficult to establish parameters to measure. Obviously, going back to what I said about hosted information society, technology has a big role in how viral marketing works. If we imagine the internet as a human body, with the web pages, emails and other sources of communication acting as the veins, when the virus uses these to spread throughout the body, which would be the use of the internet, since emails were the first form of viral marketing, new strains of the virus-based technique have kind of developed, as a virus would, which is why the metaphor is so apt and still used. We've got things like banners, viral videos, games, and so on. It means that even if parameters can be established to measure viral marketing effectiveness now, the context of what's being measured may soon change. So the areas I saw most apparent in current thinking were what it was first defined as, how that definition was then developed and evolved, the workings of viral marketing through communication, some attempts to measure how effective it is, and the fact that it's quite difficult to. And this is kind of what I found were the current thinking about viral marketing at the moment. So moving on to what my case study could be about, there's quite a noticeable gap in the fact that it's difficult to measure, and I can't hope to do that in 2,000 words. So I'd want to look at the aspects of viral marketing that make it unique, because then perhaps somebody else with more time could use that to further some kind of research into measuring it. So by helping to define it, it can then be quantified better. So I'd want to look at things about memory, audience effects, encoding and communication, all the aspects of how a viral advert would hope to obviously stick in an audience's mind and encourage them to pass it on. So.
Okay, thanks David. That was well structured. Very, very well structured. I'll open it to the floor. We've got a few minutes to just address certain things. What do we think about that? I've just got a couple of things, but I want to open it to the floor. What do you think that David would find easy to address in 2,000 words if we're looking at what he's hoping, or one of the areas, because you talked about memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we go back a slide, David, so we can see? Yeah, I mean, obviously memory's a big thing, and we can't, we can acknowledge it, I think, but I don't think we can deal with it. So we're left with audience effects, encoding, and communication. What do we think we can deal with there? Or what do you think would be the easiest thing to deal with?
Audience effects.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting one to see how different people perceive different.
Which generations
Yeah.
take a bigger turn in sharing them.
Is encoding how it's implemented? How viral marketing site implemented?
How a message is
Put across.
Packaged, yeah.
I'll
Packaged
go
and
encoding that.
Could be
I
interesting.
guess
They kind of
coding
tie
has
together quite
is
nicely,
related to audience effect.
It will be quite interesting to see the differences in encoding between different products.
Yeah,
I,
especially with different emotional tones.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to come to tonality. You may need to look at. There's loads of research in. There's a journal that I think you probably find interesting. And it's kind of a refutable journal, but it's online. You can access it. It's called. The journal's called Neuromusicology, and they say they try and say, oh, you know, an E major seventh sparks these sort of emotions. Of melancholia, and we can prove it. Here are all our graphs, but actually they haven't proved anything. All they've proved is what everyone knows, is that music can sort of strike a chord, to use a Lakofian metaphor, in all of us, whether we love it or hate it. But there might be something in it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get caught up in it. I think also you'd need to look at Pavlov.
Yes.
Classical and operant conditioning, without any shadow of a doubt. Absolutely. You could use that as your springboard, I think, because that would certainly give you information on encoding. You can find that in A-level psychology
I've got
books.
a nice A-level psychology book at home.
Excellent.
Covers
So
all of this.
there you go. There's your core text. Yeah, I mean, it was really. I thought it was really well structured what you're looking at, and I think there might be something, and I think it's quite focused, looking at the packaging, the delivery of. I think that's going to be easier to pin down than even the communication.
Okay.
I think that would be easier, definitely. Any other comments?
I was quite interested in earlier on. You were talking about the technology and how the technology has changed, and you know, I don't know that much about viral marketing, but from the kind of things that I've been like engaged with early on, they looked cheap. You know, they used low tech equipment to, you know, and it felt quite democratic. You know, it was accessible, and is that continued? Do now big
There are
companies
ideas
still
still.
use it to still use cheap equipment?
There's definitely I always remember
a look.
seeing a World of Warcraft, a banner, and I think to myself, they must make so much money from such a big game, and they have quite possibly the worst website banner ever. It's like, I could have made it. They've literally cut out like a character from the game, and they've just had it slide across the screen. And just think, do they feel that trying to make something viral, obviously it's a cheap way of trying to make it successful, but do they really think they don't have to put that much effort into it?
But is that on purpose?
Yeah.
Now.
I think the game might
Again,
have been
this goes back
established
to your
before
encoding
viral marketing,
thing.
and they haven't had the need for it as much.
I'm talking general. We're not talking about
Yeah.
one particular case. I just think you could look at literature on effective viral marketing campaigns and compare the kinds of technology used in that or maybe potentially, so if you go to the communication thing, the kinds of narrative used within those. Is there a pattern?
Yeah, I've done some reading on it, and it's definitely, there was quite a bit about, you can no longer just chuck out one advert and hope for it to go viral. It takes a full campaign with maybe like 360-degree marketing, a lot of considerations.
So
actually
that's really
makes it
interesting, a
viral.
case study on how that has evolved.
Yeah, there's quite a lot I could read up on.
I remember driving through Portsmouth and I saw on different billboards different parts of a narrative. And the funny thing is that I'm telling you now, I can't remember the company, but I thought it was pretty effective because then I was like, right, you should drive down this road and see these.
You know, two different.
Drive the other way, do you see a different narrative then?
Yeah, well, possibly.
You don't see it at all.
Oh, right. that
I
was
have
the,
got
that was the
kind
silly
of
bit.
an idea.
You miss
I
it.
do. Maybe you could look at this kind of relates to what Dan was saying. You could look at how encoding methods have changed with advancing technology.
Yeah, okay.
Like how putting the message across has changed with new technology. I don't know. And that can relate to communication as well.
I think that is an area I could look into if I was going to go towards that that packaging area again.
I think the packaging idea, the actual encoding, that this is we packed this up, we've got this thing nice ready to go, and now we're going to release it. And I think the release is the key.
I think that would probably contribute most to that big gap I found about we can't quite quantify, you know, if we can't quantify exactly what it is and what makes it so,
Yeah,
so
successful
effective,
or
yeah.
effective.
How can we measure if it's going to be?
Indeed. A very interesting area. I think you might need to relate it to one example.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't want to.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap things up there. I'd just like to make a few comments generally.